r/AskReddit. What is something society considers to be bad but really isn't? Be sure to subscribe for more wild Reddit stories. Admitting you don't know something. As a former retail manager, this is huge. We always trained our staff to say they don't know something but say let's find out by ask the senior staff or Google it to find the answer. Failing. Failing does not mean you are a failure. Just means you tried something and it didn't work out right. It is very possible that those who never failed also never tried is true. Having disagreements. Totally normal to disagree with people. It's even more normal to disagree with your friends and still remain friends. Doing nothing with my free time. I work and have chores. When I don't have those things, I don't feel like hiking or scuba diving or anything. I want to do nothing. Leave me alone. Doing things like going to a restaurant alone. Going to the bar would fit here. Nothing wrong with eating or drinking alone. When I drink alone, I'm usually by myself. Politicians changing their minds when presented with new information. I agree, I think this would change the political landscape and subsequently society for the better. You don't really move forward when you can't change your mind or are afraid you'll be shamed if you do change your mind. A lot of people are quick to call you fake if you're polite to those you dislike. It's not being fake, it's being civil. You're supposed to treat everyone like a person even if you dislike them. How is that news to people? Holdover from high school where no one understood nuance and people were also more likely to gossip behind your back and be sickly sweet to your face. Not working 24/7 or participating in the hustle culture. Sticking around through hard times. Sometimes it's not toxic, people are just flailing cause they need help, and if you help you may find a very loyal and worthwhile relationship. Being alone. I guess it depends on how the person feels about being alone. Poverty. Have you noticed how most people treat those who make little money? Yes, there are some hardcore slackers who don't want to work, but most people work their asses off to make a living, and it's not because of laziness, but because of social or health reasons. It is worth remembering that one day you make fun of the poor, and the next day you are begging for your own bread. Be kind. In my experience, some people see not being close with your family as a red flag. Not sure why. Like, sorry? I didn't get to pick my family. LOL. One example of something that society considers to be bad but is not inherently so is aging. While aging is often associated with decline and loss, it can also bring wisdom, maturity, and a greater appreciation for life. It is often how society views aging and the cultural attitudes toward the elderly that are negative, not the process itself. Old age is a privilege denied to many. Taking things that have been discarded but are perfectly good. Skilled labor or working in the trades. Mental health care. Not having kids if you don't want them. Having kids you don't want is bad. Talk about your salary. This literally just exists so that the working class doesn't talk about unbalanced wages and starts to question their bosses. I was just telling this to my partner the other day. And people go along with it all the time. A huge amount of my co-workers are extremely secretive about their wage, but still want to pry about others. Yup, got a raise just the other day cause I found out I was making less than my equals at work. Boss said himself he didn't like that we were discussing wages but eventually gave in cause he had no good reason to pay me less. Using social services. It's what they are there for, and you helped pay for them. Asking for help. Not tipping workers who do basic stuff like handing me a cup of coffee or a takeout bag. It's okay to not want to pay 20% for handing me stuff I bought. This was on the morning show I was listening to this morning after I got out of work. Companies literally just adding tip lines because people will do it without thinking, because they've been conditioned to feel bad for not tipping. Before long every fast food place will do this garbage. Being comfortable enough to relax and find enjoyment at home. You shouldn't need to constantly leave your home to find enjoyment. It's not bad to spend those staying home without going out shopping, to restaurants, to special events, etc. There's nothing wrong with relaxing at home. Being single. I cannot stand any more, do you have a girlfriend yet? Questions, they drive me nuts. My grandparents frequently ask me who is going to take care of me if I don't get married or have kids. I always tell them, my bank account. They find that answer to be very distressing. GMOs. If we want to feed 9+ billion people without destroying the earth, and exacerbating the 6th mass extinction, we are going to need GMOs. The only thing I hate about some GMOs is the companies that manufacture them to be sterile or something, so you can't use the seeds from the crop and have to buy new ones. Not going to college. Knowledge, apparently. Seems like educating others and speaking on a topic you are certified to speak in is an offense to them somehow, so they think you're speaking down to them if you disagree with them. Nuclear energy, it's just steam. Coal generator plants produce more radiation than nuclear, ironically. People's thing is always, what about nuclear waste, or think about Chernobyl. Nuclear waste won't need to be dealt with for a very long time. And do you know why Chernobyl is such a big deal? Because it's such a ridiculous, crazy situation that never happens. It's a product of poor planning, cheating out, and stupidity. The key to our energy problem is an already existing technology, so why don't we use it? Not being married or having children by a certain age. Dedicating time to yourself for self-care, mental health, and overall well-being. For some reason people think that's wrong and that you should work until you die. The whole live-to-work concept is daunting. MSG. It is delicious, low-calorie, and relatively easy to acquire. It got a bad rap from a racist a long time ago and has had trouble shaking off the bad PR. Voluntary celibacy. People act like you're missing out, or weird just because you don't want to have sex. Still living with your parents in your 20s/30s. It's completely normal in my country to live with your parents until you get a stable SO or get married. That or you make enough to live by yourself without going into debt. We don't get kicked out of the house by the age of 18 LMAO. The real effects of sugar and fat. Way back when, there was some scientist that discovered the devastating effects of sugar, and he tried to pitch it out. Then the sugar industry hired a more well-known scientist to pitch that fat was the issue that was causing a severe increase in heart disease in the US. The sugar industry also paid the government and even managed to change legislation and food guides of what Americans should eat. They really downplayed the effects of sugar so that they would keep making money. Interestingly, the rate of heart disease skyrocketed after the sugar industry did this. Today, we know a lot more about the effects of sugar but still upplay fat far too much. Not being athletic. Society deems you as unhealthy if you don't exercise. However, when people think of exercise, they usually think of hardcore exercise, when exercise can be something light, like walking. In fact, many people mix up being athletic and healthy as the same thing. Someone can be healthy and exercise, but not be athletic. Talking yourself up. I feel like every time I try to compliment myself I get hit with an eye roll and a, wow, how very humble of you. In reality I have low self-esteem, and I'm just trying to give myself positive words of affirmation to help boost my low self-confidence. I don't see what's so bad about that. Snitching. If someone harms someone else, you should totally snitch on them. If you don't, you're simply enabling more bad behavior. You're telling everyone, I will keep quiet and let people bully others. In other words, I'm okay with being complicit in crimes and harm committed on innocent people just for the sake of community/cultural cohesion as dictated by the bullying/criminal class itself. One example of something that society often considers to be bad, but is actually not inherently so, is being single or being alone. Society often places a high value on romantic relationships and marriage, leading to the belief that being single is a negative state. However, being single or alone can be a positive and empowering experience for some individuals, allowing them to focus on their own personal growth, pursue their own interests, and form meaningful relationships outside of a romantic context. It's important to remember that everyone's experiences are unique and what works well for one person may not work well for another.